So now we are moving to the next phase, which is Sami Kallio. So Sami, as you may know, is the CEO of Happy Signals. And I think I first met Sami probably about 5 years ago. And at that time, Happy Signals had already been going for 5 years. And what I've seen over the past 5 years, especially, is an enormous acceleration in the depth and breadth of data that's being collected across the world. And so I do believe Happy Signals is probably one of the most important components when you're trying to do a data-driven, people-first approach. So it's super cool to have Sami with us today. And then what I would say is it's time for Sami. So come on in.
Hi, Alan, and great to
Hi.
be here. All right. Hey, excellent to be here. More than happy to be presenting today to you our views on and learnings from how to do people-centric approach in IT and how that really changes the IT decision making and XLAs. I will be today quite a bit black and white, maybe even in my presentation, that to kind of just underline how important that people perspective or employee perspective is to IT. As Alan already said, that we have been running a company called Happy Signals for already 10 years. So these learnings and things what I'm going to present are not only my personal opinions, but they are things that we have learned with our customers. And when we talk about our customers, they are quite big organizations on average. So like PepsiCo, Nestle, as example, we are working with them to change their internal IT culture to be more end-user centric and employee-centric, providing them the data from their end users that how they feel about IT, but also if the IT is making them efficient. And thirdly, giving them a bit more data about those end users so that they understand who they really are and how they behave with connection to IT. We also work with some partners like Future and Computer Center named here, TCS, Vipro, and so on. So we also understand like your partner ecosystem as a customer, that how they see this area. But I think my message today will be very simplified version of XLAs and experience management that we get to understand together the kind of very, very core of it. That at least is my plans, hopefully. But please prepare questions for me in the end of the presentation. So happy to answer those in the end. All right. So let's start with the question. You all know this quiz show. So IT's value is created for technology stack, that one SVP in headquarters, process improvement, or all our employees. Knowing now who I'm talking to in this one, I think this should be that $100 question, so very easy one. And I hope you all answered D, which of course is the right answer. So it's when it's presented like this, it is very clear for us that yes, of course it is created for people. But still, when we talk about IT, we talk about people, process, tech, quite on a similar level. And when we talk about the traditional IT metrics, they have been very focused on the process and technology, not on understanding the people and their needs. So my speech today will be people, process, tech in that order. And I think that is the learning already said there that I want you to guys believe after this meeting that that really is the way of working. But I will give some examples of how that can be done and what that really means for that IT decision making. But again, going back to the thing, yes, we have been doing this 10 years. 11 years ago, I interviewed 10 different CIOs and IT leaders to get the understanding how they feel in their work and what are the problematic things and how they feel about end user experience and employee experience. What I found there that there was a bit of, not bit, there was a lot of frustration. They even, I would say, some of them, I felt that they hated their job. Why? Because of watermelon. Watermelon is nowadays well-known metaphor. It was not a well-known metaphor 10 years ago or 11 years ago. But if somebody doesn't know what that means, it means that you're measuring things in IT that matter for IT, but they are in fact measuring how we are working and are we doing as agreed. But that's it. So they are important metrics. We have to understand them to verify are we doing as we have promised to work. But it is a different thing when we think about it from the business perspective. Are we creating any value? So IT doing something doesn't always create value. But the main thing here when we talk about developing services and improving services is that we always should be starting that from the perspective of understanding really the business users and their needs. So the problems that still many IT leaders, many of you might be facing on daily basis or weekly basis, monthly basis, is the thinking that how can I really show the value to business? And how can be the trusted partners? And that's why you are here. You are wanting to learn about XLAs as a way of stating that and proving that. On the other hand, you are thinking about how you motivate your IT teams, how you make them to work with those metrics that are creating benefits for the business. My belief and what we are doing here is that, in fact, this isn't complicated. We can make it really complicated, but to be able to discuss across your IT internally with the business units, you have to make it simple. Otherwise, it just gets so complicated that people don't understand it. To make it simple, our recommendation and what our customers are really doing, they are focusing on two, I would say they are North Star metrics. So experience of end users across different IT services and productivity of your end users. Because if you understand these in a good level, high level, and not only on a company average level, because that doesn't help you at all. I hate averages. And what I mean by that is that if you only focus on the average number, that just kills the development. You end up even with CSATs and experience scores and satisfaction scores, whatever name you want to use it, you will end up with watermelon if you only focus on the high level one number. What you really have to understand what is causing that. There is always space for improvement, but if you have said like this is a good level, you will create also watermelon with experience. If you just like, okay, now we reached a good level. There is no good level because there is always areas that are causing issues for people. So you have to find a way how you continuously improve. And I think XLAs is one good thing, but even more important is the ways of working in like experience management way of working, that you get people to think about it, how I can contribute to the happiness and productivity. And when people start to think about those two simple metrics, they start to understand, okay, where should we really focus on? So the thing with experience data from our perspective and what our customers are prioritizing is that you continuously measure all these different areas of IT. So everything you as an organization offer to your end users. Doing that wisely so that you are not bothering people too much, but having a pulse all the time, having an understanding how they are feeling about services. What you now see exactly on this screen is the measurement areas that we have in HappySingers product. But also you see our benchmark report that Alan was referring in the beginning. But this is now the high level. So how happy people globally are to different areas of IT. And this is now based on about 2 million feedback, 1.9 million feedback from normal end users of our customers. There you can notice that services is doing quite well. So that is service desk. It is almost the most liked service area. Then there are some other areas of IT where people are, maybe hate is a too strong word, but applications, devices, people are not satisfied. So human to human services typically are scored a bit higher than colder touch points of IT. You can find a benchmark report from our web pages where you can really deep dive to these ones and understand a bit more what makes people happy and how channels works and all that. But today I wanted to give you one data because we are now having today a US audience. So global incident benchmark is 80 points in happiness. That means about 90% of people said that the service is excellent, about 10% did say that it's bad. There we got the number 80. So 90 minus 10 is 80. Lost time per ticket is people's own perception to the lost time. So we are asking them how much time did you lose because of this IT incident or this problem. So it is not MTTR. You have MTTR is very good in measuring those. You understand that, but it is aligned, and in the benchmark reports you can see how MTTR and experience is aligned and lost time are aligned, but still they are not 100% aligned. So even sometimes ticket is less time open than the lost time for employees was because they try to solve it themselves and so on. But now in US, you are almost in the slave level in the happiness, but this is not saying that your services would be worse than average in the world. You are maybe a bit more critical as well. but Western Europe is the most critical area of the world. So there are differences in cultures how you rate these kind of services. But in US, you are losing 3 hours 40 minutes. And what I would like to kind of encourage you to honestly think about is the whole cost of IT. Not only the cost that you have in IT for buying the services from your providers or proving and providing those services in, for example, in service desk, but taking in consideration that what if and how we can optimize the 3 hours 40 minutes. There are customers in our customer base that are losing less than 1 hour per incident because they have understood how to optimize it. And also one fact about that lost time is that only 13% of all tickets are causing more than 80% of lost time. So my question is to you that would you like to know which are those 13% in your organization that are causing that huge time loss? So again, averages are averages, but understanding where people are losing that time, where people are unhappy, those are the meaningful problems to solve. And that you get when you measure things continuously and you start to understand really different kind of behaviors. Also, before I move on, I would like you to think about not those individual people in this picture, but think about them as teams of salespeople, teams of certain units of your organization. And then understanding, okay, when you are as a PRM, meeting that, you remember maybe from the questions, there was the C option, SVP from headquarters. You are meeting him or her, and you are able to present these kinds of scores to them. This is the current situation in your team, not overall company, but in your team. So you are not anymore two individuals having an opinion. You are having data that you can base your recommendations and your reports on. So it becomes a partnership with that SVP that you together make decisions like, hey, this is what I'm now from IT proposing that we will spend the money like this, because then there is more value for money, because then we really solve the issues that you have in your organization. There are several good examples that about that SVP kind of behavior. There was one case in US, one of our customers, that there was that kind of SVP shouting to IT that certain application has to be changed. It has to be updated. It doesn't work. They started to measure about 15 different applications with our product. And they understood that in fact, those end users, these normal people from his unit, in fact, were quite happy with that application, but hated two others. So what this company did, they removed the budget of removing that tool that wasn't a problem and moved that budget to those tools that were a problem for more people than just that one SVP. And that is the power of having experience data and understanding really of the people in certain units, that you can really talk meaningful talks with the people from the business, that you then can do decisions together. And this is not only with the business, you can do the same things inside your own teams and so on to make right decisions. So when we start to go really to the IT decision making, and I always said people, process, tech in that order. You start from that people and experience data from all those measurement areas to find meaningful problems to solve. That helps you to then define what are the processes related to that problem. Are there process issues? Are there technology issues? Are there human things? Should we be having trainings or so on? And then if they are process and technology issues, you fix them and check on, okay, now we are back in the good level. Or now already also in this area, we are having good numbers. So with the traditional metrics, XLAs, you can find what to fix, and then you can verify the changes. But again, only people can validate that did you create value. It's not a guarantee that even though you fix the metrics, that did you create value for those people. So always start from people, and always the process ends with people as well. But this is not the only way how experience data and understanding of those employees really helps you in IT decision making, because when I'm asked nowadays that how are that user, who is user, what decisions, in fact, the first answer from me, the short one, is all decisions in your organization that are related to end users. In those cases, you should understand who are really the users, what are their behavior models, how they act. Do they work from home? Do they work on the laptop all the time? Are they working remotely, partly? Are they traveling a lot? Are they IT savvy or not? you need all that kind of data to understand if your service is going to be a fit for those people or group of people. But also in a way, when you are doing any of these decisions on this page, you are developing your AI strategy, you are developing AI services in the organization, you are planning what kind of devices you should be offering to different roles. If you have the understanding of those devices that work, for example, for sales roles, and then meeting the business leaders, they're saying that, hey, what we notice here is that if we would move from this model to this model, people would save 4 hours per month and they would be this more efficient. So even though this laptop is £100, $100 more expensive, we should be starting to invest to that one. But in fact, in these and these roles, people are happy with their laptops 1 year later. So we don't have to renew them in 2 years. We can remove them in 3 years or 4 years. So when you really have a data, then you can do better decisions in all of these areas. But again, it starts from getting that understanding and also the kind of attitude in IT, of course, that we care about this and we want to do it in a proper way. This is like what I have seen happening in the industry. Okay, let's see. I was not maybe running any companies when we still were IT-centric organizations. So meaning that when IT was very young, of course it was IT-centric, and we were pushing to the business. We were teaching them to use it. Everything came through IT, and we were the one pushing things further. Then later on, we were in the status of being customer-centric, or we thought that we are customer-centric when we started to have those meetings with the business, asking the priorities from those SVPs. So individual people were giving us the priorities of business and what we should be doing in the IT. And that still was missing the really understanding of employee experience and employee data. But then nowadays, I would say our customers and some others, of course, are in a level that they have the good understanding and they can be more proactive towards business, telling that, hey, this is why we are recommending something. So you can back up your decisions, your proposals with data that is meaningful to them, because it's not wise to back up your decisions based on that, okay, we are now going to answer the phone 20 seconds faster. And that should be maybe having some influence. But if you really are able to kind of treat, hey, we are now evolving this so that your people can focus more on the main work they are doing. We are now focusing on the first line workers, for example, because our customer company priority is end user satisfaction or more sales. So if you understand all these across functions, different experiences of end users, you can then start to do decisions like that. So making a priority that your first line workers are priority one, then it's maybe C-level, some other units. But without having that understanding of the experience, you cannot start to do that kind of decisions that are more aligned with the business priorities. But then I think nobody is yet in the black box or very dark blue section, that personalized by AI area. What we mean by that is that we believe that in 2-3 years, we are going to be in a situation that a lot of the actions and collaboration with AI comes through virtual agents. I think you all have heard those discussions, and I believe very heavily that that will be happening. Not maybe this year, partly happening this year and so on, but there is a lot of things that we still have to do better. But what happens there is that at some point, we realize that the AI can do much better job if we can give the AI more understanding of those end users. So when you have now gathered it, you understand who are technical people who work certainly. We can use that data to prompt the AI to talk more personally to individual employees. So IT is never going to be able to talk and understand individuals in the level that every time they are using whatever, that could be then personalized. But when they are facing the services with virtualization and so on, that virtualization can be talking technically to some others, and hopefully not technically to me, because I need more precise instructions, as you maybe know this from the beginning of this meeting. But the thing there is that you cannot jump to that one. You first have to understand and do the practices and basics of understanding and having even that data. What is the preferences of your end users? But then you might be thinking that I haven't talked anything about the XLAs yet. I will come back to that one in the second last slide. But before that, still one thing. End users. So if you don't really start to change your IT and your perspective to be people first, This is maybe not a happy signal slide. This is more like what happens if you don't start to do that. Sometimes it's easier to understand what happens in a negative way. So if you don't change the approach to this kind of a view, you don't have to do it with us, but if you just continue focusing on the SLAs and the traditional metrics, you are just making sure that you do the bare minimum. And what happens then is that your end users will continue losing time in areas that you don't even know. And that understanding you have to get to be really creating maximum value with the money. So in the middle, you see IT spends money to things that don't matter to business. We all know that there is less and less. So CIOs, IT is always asked to drop the cost by 10% or 5% per year. And still we are expected to create more and more value. That we can do when we understand what are the meaningful problems to solve. So where IT should be spending the money. But if we are not understanding that and we are doing things based on technology metrics and guessing if that would maybe help somewhere, we might be spending money on things that doesn't matter. The last one, some people are thinking that that's just a belief and so on. But there was a research about 2 years ago by Adobe that 48% of people leaving organizations left the organization partly because of bad IT. So when they were asked after they left that what were the reasons, 48% said that one reason was bad IT. So yes, you guys, we all are contributing to how people feel at work. Are they feeling that this is an organization where I really want to work? And that's why this is really a business critical thing. Then IT will change the perception to and the focus to end users. But then about XLAs. So my view, our company's view to that one is that it is even more important in the beginning that you focus on getting this change started. So the big thing is changing your organization to be focused on that people experience and understanding who you are working for. Not so that you start from how we measure stuff in the agreement level, but and KPIs. Our view is that you start to measure happiness, loss, productivity across all those areas. You do this to be able to recognize the meaningful problems to solve. Simultaneously, when you are leading your IT, you have to be able to link all that you do to your business objectives and IT objectives. So understanding if it's now important to save IT cost, if it's now important to make your end users efficient, if you have a lot of onboarding, you are maybe merging with some other organizations, that of course changes the priority where to focus. So our recommendation is heavily that every 6 months, make sure that you kind of discuss this very openly with your IT leadership team or inside one of those towers, like in service management area. So what are our business objectives? What are the things we have found? Which should be the most important things to improve? So what are the improvements that we should be now doing? Which you can think about and call them XLAs, if that is like an agreement and KPI level thing. But you make a decision that this is our focus. So XLAs always is a decision made of focus. And if that is done based on the experience of end users and their productivity, then those focus decisions gives you the focus also on what tech data, what process data, maybe what other data is now needed during that 6 to 12 months time that XLA is valid. And there you use the traditional metrics that IT still needs. I'm not saying that you wouldn't need those. Yes, you need to measure all the SLAs and technology metrics, but you can use them now to verify that did you do the change, and then again validating the value created with the experience data. So that is our view to how the XLAs run, and what we have learned from our customer base is this. So when we think about does this really work, this is what our customers answered. So on average, they have been able to make their end users 26% more productive, 24% more better experience. But also when we ask them that, hey, can you list the things that are the kind of positive things that have been influenced by experience management? I would underline those pink ones for you so that don't be afraid of starting this journey because it will make your teams and yourself feel more motivated and better. So I would say even focusing on the end user experience is in a way even a selfish decision for IT because it just is so much more fun to be able to work with cases that are more meaningful. And what I mean by this is like measuring the IT agents or services agents. In traditional model, they are measured by how many tickets they close per hour. But when you're focusing on experience, you are measuring how they help people. So that mindset already is quite a big difference. And that's just one example of how much better it feels to be working on something that you really understand what value did you create. All right, I would love to thank you all. That quote there is for one video that is making maybe a bit of fun for this experience management and employee experience. It's our marketing video, so feel free to check that one and and share that with your colleagues. I promise it's fun one. But now, more than happy to answer any questions.
So thank you, Sami. A wonderful presentation. I am not seeing questions yet, but I do have a question myself. So I just make sure I understood it. Did you say that 13% of the incidents are causing 80% of the discomfort, or did I get that number right?
Yeah, 13% is in the global benchmark, and that is based on hundreds of thousands of feedbacks. So it's really like most cases, people average lost time to be less than half an hour. But then there are other cases that when things go wrong, they go wrong badly. I would say that may be the summary of that one.
But it's interesting because, for many of us who've done sort of management training, we always learn about the Pareto analysis, which is like 80-20. You're saying it's
Yeah,
80 to
30.
13.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so that's
that's
that's a quick win almost if you just understand what that
what is
driver of
causing that.
dissent
Yeah,
is.
yeah. And I
Wow.
think there is a lot of things in the lost time MTTR area, because it's like when you start to, for example, compare those two numbers, you start to understand that if one type of a ticket is open for 1 hour, what is the average lost time cost?
Right.
And what you could do with that number is prioritize tickets based on experience data. And it starts to make much more sense that you try to kind of do it in any other way. Because because that is true that if let's say if I would have not been able to fix this problem with my computer now and been able to join back to the meeting in 1-2 minutes, I think you wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't be happy. So
So I
tickets
do
are
have
not equal.
sorry, Sammy, I have a
Yep.
question from promoters. But how do you measure happiness? What is the measurement of happiness?
Of course, I think that's partly why we are calling it happiness is because of the company brand. It is satisfaction to services. I think that is more the right word for it if you really think about English language. But it is a simple question in all those areas that how do you feel about the service? And after that, we are asking if you say positive things, we said what made you say positive things? Is it the attitude of agent? Is it the speed of service? Negative side, the same thing. If you said that I didn't like it, what was the meaning? What was the reason for it? And then,
Right.
like in this survey as well, it is then more easy to kind of focus on the things that matter than when you understand what is more meaningful than the other areas.
And I think the other thing that triggered me coming back to that is, and you've got it up here again, is just getting focus for IT teams. Because I think sometimes IT teams can get lost in categories, priorities, thousands of incidents, maybe an even bigger amount of problems that are not getting any attention. Would you agree that just having better focus for the IT teams and being experience led to get to the bottom of that 13%, that's probably the biggest thing that you can win here?
I think that is the beginning because I think the biggest thing is that you really can prove that the business that you were able to do decisions that made sense to them and you made better value. But that is very, very big thing to getting to the results is that your team realized, okay, this is what is the situation. Like I I enjoy those moments when the first time you're able to sort of do the person who is responsible for laptop selection in a big organization. They have never seen if certain brands or certain devices are creating better value. And then when they click, let's only see the leadership, let's only see the sales, and their eyes are like, now I can do decisions based on data. I don't just have to go and listen to that SVP telling that I hate my laptop. Great, I can buy you a new one. But it doesn't make any kind of, you cannot do decisions. And then when you start to like be in that mode, that you can like test your own hypothesis, because that is one way how we have noticed that people are using when they have the data. You, Alan, for sure would, if you would be working with some companies and discuss with 2-3 people, you will end up in having a hypothesis that this is wrong in the organization. With experience data, you can go to, is that true or not, and what is causing that? And that's the testing your own hypothesis is one of the key. One discussion I had with one CIO, he said that, Sami, I go every time I have an idea, I go to your product, and mostly it supports my idea. And then there are the cases it doesn't, and I hate it. But it influences it. It's not then pushing it because it's not aligned with the data. But when it is, he can use that data to support his proposal. And that is exactly the right way of using experience data. It's not always that you find a problem, but you test your hypothesis with it before proposing it to the leadership team that, hey, this is what we should be doing. And of course, you guys in audience, you can already use our benchmark data partly to do that, because there are like how channels works and so on. You have like not your own data, but there is a data that you can use to give power to your decision proposals. Why are you having a virtualized project? It should be linked that this is what we are believing will happen, and this is what's going to happen with the experience.
So Pramod, thank you for that question. And I do have one more question for you, Sami. That do you get a situation where the resistance is actually from the IT teams, that the IT teams don't necessarily want the information that you're giving them? Because I mean, like a laptop's a great example. I love this laptop. I don't want to hear people complaining about it all day because they need to learn to use it better.
Yes, yes, we do. I would say that's mainly not the people we are discussing, not the people who are having a discussion with us, maybe buying for it or using it, but there is people in their organization that is, I would even say that the thing is that they might be also scared of this data, because it is easy, I'm sorry to say, but it's easy to get the SLA screen and work as agreed. But then when somebody comes to you that, in fact, even though we have been doing this 10 years, still it is crap. But that is true. But the thing is that when we are having this discussion, like, but now, dear IT people, we are the only one not knowing this crap. The business is already talking about it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you are not hiding that information that your service is not working for them. You are the only one that doesn't know it. And that's why it's getting this information and then being able to, because business people do have strong expectations. Like many people think that service desk is very bad in everywhere. No, service desk is one of the best services in our benchmark globally. And the other services are much worse than that. So I think that is one reason why many organizations start for service desk when they start to do their experience management journey.
So this is wonderful. Again, I always love listening to you. And again, thank you for making this event possible, and thank you for also being a global founding member of the XLA community. So this is super cool. For everybody else, Sami will be back. I think, right? You will be back for the roundtable.
I will be back.
And we have
Elsa
a lot of.
will join again in a couple of hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for your time. I know you're a CEO of the company. You have quite a few things on your mind, but this was a great presentation. I think we all thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm seeing some thumbs up and appreciation for it. So
All right.
so thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.